Right, guys, so we're live with the Bald and the Beautiful. I'll be out here in the background. Have fun. Don't go crazy.
Hi, all.
Hello.
So I guess tonight we're doing serial killers and the paranormal. I've got a few serial killers and a few places that are haunted associated with those serial killers. So just thought I'd do a little slight angle on that.
I've thrown in a slight mix of potential ghosts of serial killers too. So
Nice. So that will be very good.
So, do you want to start or will I?
Go right on ahead, ladies first.
Okay. Well, of course, the first one we have to do is Arnie from The Conjuring. The first known court case, Arne Cheyenne Johnson is the proper name. The first known court case in the US in which the defense sought to prove innocence based upon the claim of demonic possession and denial of personal responsibility for the crime. On November 24th, 1981, in Brookfield, Connecticut, Arne Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter for the killing of his landlord, Alan Bono. According to testimony by the Glatzel family, 12-year-old David Glatzel allegedly had played host to a demon after witnessing a number of increasingly ominous occurrences involving David. His family, exhausted and terrified, decided to enlist the help of Ed and Lorraine Warren. In a last-ditch effort to cure the child, the Glatzel family, along with the Warrens, then proceeded to have multiple priests petition the Catholic Church to have a formal exorcism performed. The process continued for several days, concluding when, according to those present, a demon fled the child's body and took up residence within Arnie. These events were documented in the book The Devil in Connecticut by Gerald Brittle. Several months later, Arne killed his land. I keep switching between Arnie and Arne because I know by the spelling it's supposed to be the French version. Johnson killed his landlord during a party. His defense lawyer argued in court that he was possessed, but the judge ruled that such a defense could never be proven and was therefore infeasible in a court of law. Johnson was subsequently convicted, though he served only 5 years behind bars, of a 10 to 20-year sentence. The trial attracted media attention from around the world and has obtained a level of notoriety due to numerous depictions of the events in literature and TV. A live-action TV prequel titled Where Demons Dwell was released on August 31st, 2006. The story was later made into a film adaptation titled The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and was the subject of a documentary, The Devil on Trial. Now, at the risk of boring you, I've got quite a lot of detail on this, because, of course, it's the best documented one. Arne and Debbie Glatzel provided first-hand accounts for the various events, for the version of events depicted in Discovery Channel's A Haunting episode, Where Demons Dwell. They said their father was an eyewitness to demonic possession. Both Johnson and Debbie were adamant in their support of the Warrens' recollection of events. They asserted that paranormal activity began after they went to clean up a rental property they had just acquired. David recalled an old man suddenly appeared, pushing and terrifying him. The couple initially thought David was using the old man as an excuse to avoid cleaning, but David informed them that the old man had vowed to harm them if they moved into the rental home. David's visions of the old man included the man appearing as a demonic beast who muttered Latin and threatened to steal his soul. Although the family allegedly heard strange noises coming from the attic, no one but David ever saw the old man. After David experienced night terrors, exhibited strange behaviors, and obtained unexplained scratches and bruises, the family called upon the services of a Catholic priest, who attempted to bless the house. The terrified family concluded that the house was evil and would no longer continue to rent it. David's visions worsened, occurring in the daytime as well. 12 days after the original incident, the family summoned Ed and Lorraine Warren to assist. Lorraine witnessed a black mist materialize next to David, an indication of a malevolent presence. Debbie and her mother told the Warrens they had seen David being beaten and choked by invisible hands, and that red marks had appeared on his neck afterwards. David had started to growl, hiss, speak in otherworldly voices, and recite passages from the Bible or Paradise Lost. The Glatzels recounted how each night a family member would remain awake with David as he suffered through spasms and convulsions. After receiving a prognosis of multiple possessions from the Warrens, David was subjected to 3 lesser exorcisms. Lorraine asserts that David levitated, ceased breathing for a time, and even demonstrated the supernatural ability of precognition. I'm sorry, but I don't think precognition is a supernatural ability, because it's my argument that we're all born with it. We just get our heads filled up with normal everyday stuff and we forget how to do it. Anyway, specifically in relation to the manslaughter Johnson would later commit. In October 1980, the Warrens contacted Brookfield police to warn them that the situation was becoming dangerous. According to eyewitness testimony, Arne Johnson coerced one of the demons purportedly within David to possess him while participating in David's exorcisms. It is here that a haunting veers away from the circumstances of Johnson's possession and described by those involved. According to the show, a few days after Johnson egged the demon on during the exorcism, he was attacked rather viciously by the demon, which allegedly took control of his car and forced it into a tree. But Johnson was not harmed. After this incident, Johnson returned to the rental property to examine an old well that supposedly housed the demon. In both the dramatized version and his personal account, Johnson said that this was his final encounter with the demon while he was completely lucid. After encountering the demon at the well and making eye contact with it, he became possessed. The Warrens claim to have warned him not to do this, although their warning was not mentioned in A Haunting. As David's condition worsened further, Debbie and Johnson, who had been living in her mother's home, decided it was time to move. Debbie was hired by Alan Bono, a new resident in Brookfield, as a dog groomer. Debbie and Johnson began renting an apartment close to her place of employment. After moving in, Johnson started to exhibit odd behaviors, and it was strikingly similar to how young David had been, causing Debbie to fear that he had become possessed as well. According to Debbie, Johnson would fall into a trance-like state wherein he would growl and hallucinate, but later have no memory of it. On 16th of February 1981, Johnson called in sick to his job at Wright Tree Service and joined Debbie at the kennel where she worked, along with his sister Wanda and Debbie's 9-year-old cousin Mary. Bono, the couple's landlord and Debbie's employer at the kennel, bought the group lunch at a local bar and proceeded to drink heavily. After lunch, the group returned to the kennel. Debbie then took the girls to get pizza, but insisted they return quickly, anticipating trouble due to the amount of alcohol consumed. When they returned, Bono, completely intoxicated at this point, became agitated. Everyone left the room at Debbie's urging, except Bono. Except Bono, who seized Mary and refused to let her go. Johnson headed back to the apartment and ordered Bono to release Mary. Wanda recounted the following events to the police. Mary ran for the car as Debbie attempted to mitigate the situation by standing between the two men. Wanda tried in vain to pull Johnson away. Johnson, growling like an animal, then drew a 5-inch pocket knife and stabbed Bono repeatedly. Excuse me. Bono died several hours later. According to Johnson's lawyer, Bono had suffered 4 or 5 tremendous wounds, mostly to his chest, and one that stretched from his stomach to the base of his heart. That's not a stab. That's more or less hung, drawn, and quartered. Johnson was discovered 2 miles away from the site. Sergeant Gordon Fairchild of the words is hard after you've been at work all day. Brookfield Police Department said he helped arrest Johnson on a charge of assault, while Alan Bono was still being treated at the hospital. He said Jono told him he did not mean to hurt anyone and was unable to remember anything. While putting him into the police cruiser, Johnson said, "I need help because I've got a drinking problem." Fairchild said, when Johnson was informed at police headquarters that Bono had died, Fairchild said the suspect became incoherent and then fell asleep for 20 to 25 minutes, which is a bit sus. When Johnson awoke, Police Detective Sergeant John Lucas advised him of his rights and charged Arnie with first-degree murder. He was held at Bridgeport Correctional Centre on bail of $125,000. This was the first unlawful killing in the history of Brookfield, Connecticut. Then we get into how the media got involved. The day after the killing, Lorraine Warren informed the Brookfield police that Johnson was possessed when the crime was committed. A media blitz surrounded the story, fueled in part by the Warrens, whose agents promised that lectures, a book, and a movie detailing the gruesome case were in the works. Of course, Ed Forever the Showman. Martin Minella, Johnson's lawyer, receives calls from all over the world about what was being called the Demon Murder Trial. Minella travelled to England to meet with lawyers who had been involved in 2 similar cases, though neither of those actually went to trial. He planned to bring in exorcism specialists from Europe and threatened to subpoena the priests who oversaw David Glatzel's exorcism if they did not cooperate with the defence. The trial took place in Connecticut's Superior Court in Danbury, beginning on October 28, 1981. Minella attempted to submit a plea of not guilty by virtue of possession, but the presiding judge, Robert Callahan, promptly rejected this defence. Callahan argued that no such defence could ever exist in a court of law due to the lack of evidence, and it would be irrelative and unscientific to allow related testimony. The defence chose to imply that Johnson acted in self-defence. Because of this, the jury was not legally allowed to consider demonic possession as a viable explanation for the killing. The jury deliberated for 15 hours over 3 days, that's a short work day, before convicting Johnson on November 24th, 1981 of first-degree manslaughter. On December 18th, 1981, he was sentenced to 10 to 20 years behind bars, though he served only 5, or approximately 1 month short of 5 years. Lorraine Warren defended her work with the family, claiming that the 6 priests who were involved in the incident agreed at the time that the boy was possessed and that the supernatural events she described were real. No independent verification of this claim about the priest's alleged views was provided. Glatzel's father, Carl Glatzel Sr., denies telling the author that his son was possessed. Johnson and Debbie, now married, wholeheartedly support the Warrens' account of demonic possession and have stated that the litigants were suing simply for the money. Then we get into how it's been put out in various books, which honestly, you can look that up yourselves. But it's very interesting, and there's kind of half of me wants to believe it, And the other half of me is you're just making excuses. So I'm undecided on that one. I don't know what you think, Joe. Evening,
It's one of
Colin.
those,
Terry.
yeah. It's one of those things. You've got in the beginning, you've got the guy who can only see the man. You've got, it's just basically he said, she said. I
Yeah.
see this stuff, but nobody else does. Um, though I've run into cases in the past where um, the person who's having the issues is the one that sees what's going on, and it's same basic thing, and you kind of
Yeah.
believe what they're saying because evidence leads to them having something going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an interesting story.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
like I say, it's the first one that came to mind as soon as the topic was decided. Because of course, yeah, I've seen all the Conjurings. Well, all of them that have been out anyway. No doubt there's going to be more in the works. There always seems to be in things like this. But yeah.
Of course there is. There's got to be more.
Yeah.
Let me put up some photos here, just so we've got something to glare at.
Yeah.
Or show. Oh, and of course I put them all in the same folder.
Ah, yeah.
So I used to separate them out by folder by topic, and that made it much nicer. But
I think I've got it.
yeah, you probably do.
Isn't it weird that, well, from a female point of view, why are all these psychopaths really good looking until they open their mouths and you find out what they've done?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, of course, as you can all tell by the pictures, this is the infamous Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
Mid 1980s, Los Angeles wasn't just afraid of crime, it was afraid of the dark. Windows were locked despite the suffocating summer heat. Guns sold out across the city, and people checked their doors twice, 3 times before trying and failing to go to sleep. Because somewhere out there was a man who didn't just kill, he invaded. Ooh, that's pretty scary. And what Ramirez did was pretty scary. He used fear as a weapon. He didn't fit a clean pattern at all. That made him even more terrifying. He attacked at night, breaking into homes while people slept. Victims ranged in age from children to the elderly. He used whatever was available: guns, knives, blunt force, candlesticks or whatever. And there's no consistent victim profile. Of course, the unpredictability of it all created a chilling idea that if you were asleep in Los Angeles, you were a potential target. And it's still like that today. Mm-hmm. He wasn't actually hunting a type. He was hunting an opportunity.
Yeah.
What set Ramirez apart wasn't just the violence. It was the identity he built around it. He openly invoked Satan, drawing pentagrams at crime scenes, forcing victims to swear allegiance to Satan, speaking about evil as if it were a real guiding force. And during his trial, he infamously raised the pentagram on his palm and shouted, "Hail Satan!"
Mm-hmm.
But here's what makes him especially unsettling. He didn't claim to be possessed. He claimed to be aligned. So he's got a partner. So that's kind of like, yeah. So haunted or calculated? Unlike David Berkowitz, who we'll get to here in a little bit, who said he was obeying a voice, Ramirez's stance was different. He never said something made him do it. He framed his actions as a choice tied to a belief system. That creates a darker philosophical angle. What if he wasn't haunted, but willingly stepped into something? Some survivors described a sense of overwhelming dread before seeing him, his presence as cold, almost inhuman. Now, it can be explained psychologically, fear, shock, trauma, but in storytelling, it feeds a deeper question. Did he cultivate that presence or did he become it? You know,
Yeah.
everything that he did. So there's a connection to the Cecil Hotel, which I've got in my list here a little bit later. During his killing spree, he lived at the Cecil, which is now Stay on Main, down on Main Street in LA. It's gone through some remodeling and all that stuff. The hotel had a reputation for crime and instability. Residents came and went, often unnoticed. You could rent rooms by the night, by the week, by the month. So people were in and out all the time. It was chaotic enough that he could return from attacks without drawing any attention. Stories suggested that he would enter through the back door of the hotel, walk past people unnoticed, and sometimes discard bloody clothing in the dumpsters nearby. The serial killer just didn't pass through the Cecil, he fit into the Cecil. He was like everybody else that was there. So, in 1985, the fear had transformed into something close to hysteria. News outlets ran constant updates. Police struggled to find a clear pattern. The nickname Night Stalker made him feel less human, more like a presence, a predator. He wasn't just a man, he was something lurking in the dark. So he was eventually identified through fingerprints and media exposure. In August of 1985, a month before I joined the Navy, by the way, he was recognized by civilians in East Los Angeles, chased, beaten, and held until police arrived. His capture wasn't inquired or procedural. Yeah, if he's beaten and chased by people, it's not. It was chaotic, almost primal. At his trial, he showed no remorse. He continued to lean into a satanic persona and attracted and disturbed a disturbing group of admirers, like a lot of these people do. Behind the mythology, there were real factors: a traumatic childhood, exposure to violence at a young age, drug use, neurological issues, including head injuries. Not to say that that's to excuse him, but that's what they used to point out why he did these things. From a rational perspective, he constructed an identity that amplified fear and control. From a paranormal angle, it appears as if someone didn't just commit evil, he embraced it as a force. So, some killers say that he heard voices. Some said that they were forced. Ramirez said something far more disturbing. He chose it. Yeah. In the end, the question isn't whether Richard Ramirez was haunted. It was whether he became the thing people feared in the dark.
Cool.
Yeah. Interesting case, though.
Yeah, and it's as soon as you mentioned the Cecil, or the Cecil, as folk over this side of the pond would read it, it's my brain is automatically going to American Horror Story Hotel. And of course, he's one of the characters that's included in it, as is the female serial killer. I can't remember her name. Hers was supposed to be revenge for her abuse when she was a kid and all the rest of it. So,
yeah.
It's mad, isn't it? I've got a couple little snippets here.
Okay.
The first one is extremely short. It's been tagged on to the story about Arn Johnson, and you have where's the beginning of it? So yeah, Johnson was not the first person to reference demonic possession during his murder trial. He was the first one in the States. The first one in England was in 1974. Michael Taylor attacked a friend who claimed that Taylor was speaking in tongues and had a bestial look about him. Like Johnson, Taylor claimed that he did not remember the attack, only that he felt an evil force taking over. Taylor's behavior transformed after that from a warm, gentle man to an extremely violent person known to be easily annoyed. And he also destroyed every religious item in his house. The Catholic Church performed a long and arduous exorcism on Taylor, allegedly casting out 40 demons from his body. However, the following day, Taylor violently murdered his wife, believing that she was possessed by Satan. While Taylor did not claim personal demonic possession as a defense, a clinical psychologist testified that the trauma inflicted by the exorcism, in combination with Taylor's pre-existing mental health conditions, pushed him into insanity. No motive was established for the murder, and Taylor was found not guilty by reason of insanity. And then it skips on to David Berkowitz. So do you want another shot before I do David Berkowitz?
Well, David was my next one, but you go right on ahead. I've got pictures here if you don't.
You've probably got more info than I have.
Well, I'll throw in. Just go right on ahead, and I'll throw in if I've got some extras that you might have missed out on.
So David R. Berkowitz, or Berkowitz, depending how you want to pronounce it, being that it is an Eastern Bloc spelling, also known as the son of Sam. He was charged with 6 counts of second-degree murder in 1978, committed during a year-long shooting rampage in New York City. Berkowitz's actions left 6 people dead and 7 wounded. Initially at his trial, he cited demons as the cause of his action, claiming that they motivated him to kill and injure people throughout New York City. Additionally, Berkowitz, he looks like he should be a comedian rather than anything else. Additionally, Berkowitz pointed to Sam Carr and Carr's black Labrador retriever, claiming that they were the leaders of the demons and gave him the nickname Son of Sam. Prior to the trial, Berkowitz was examined by multiple psychiatrists to ensure that he was mentally fit to stand trial, which he was declared so. Instead of pleading insanity as he originally intended, he pled guilty to the murders. He was given 6 25 to life sentences. And then it skips to a different one, which I've never heard of. It's only a 2011 one. So I'm just going to do this one because it seems, let me see. Yeah, it's about the last ones, because after that it goes on to citing their sources. So a recent demonic defense claim occurred in England in 2011. 19-year-old Lorraine, I'm going to butcher this name, Mbulawa, Mbulawa, claimed possession by evil spirits to escape an attempted murder conviction. The 19-year-old stabbed her sleeping mother and claimed that she acted according to instructions from her deceased grandmother. She told police she had planned to kill herself after killing her mother. Her family believed in witchcraft and spirits and accepted her story, welcoming her with open arms after her hearing. A psychiatrist found that she was of sound mind, and instead of being convicted for attempted murder, she was given the less severe sentence of unlawful wounding. She received a 12-month custodial sentence with an 18-month suspension and 120 hours unpaid labor. Justice Keith, who oversaw her case, thought that her conviction that she was obeying the spirits reduced her culpability significantly. This, coupled with her family's support, aided the efficacy of her spiritual possession defense. In general, the devil made me do it does not appear to be a valid murder defense in a court of law. Certainly, it's not one that many people attempt, even if they are genuinely convinced that they are obeying an evil spirit entity. Allowing such a claim would set a precedent for courts to allow lesser sentences for those who can convince the court that they were possessed without any solid proof that spirits exist or can, in fact, possess people. The defense of demonic possession in court cases is likely to remain ineffective ad infinitum, forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea there'd been a more recent one, because I always think of these things being like 70s and 80s and before.
So he was caught in 1977. Berkowitz was. So,
yeah.
And this one in 2011. That's
It's mad. And the fact that she killed her mother and she's got off with unlawful wounding? Really?
Yeah.
That should at least be manslaughter.
Should be.
I don't care what voices you're listening to in your head. It should at least be manslaughter because there's still a dead body.
Exactly. Yeah. A wounded dead body.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what it is. So malicious wounding.
Unlawful wounding is like you ran up to somebody in the street and headbutted them, you know.
Oh God. So yeah, he was son of Sam Berkowitz. He was caught in 1977 after a parking ticket led police to his car. Inside the car were weapons, evidence, and evidence linking him to the crimes.
Yeah.
When he was arrested, he reportedly said, "You got me. No resistance, no drama, nothing. Just, you got me." They say the ending felt too simple for the fear he created. If Ramirez was your devotion to evil figure, Berkowitz was your voice from beyond case. You could introduce him like, some killers choose violence. Some claim they were forced. David Berkowitz said he was told.
Yeah.
I was told to do that. The most disturbing part of the Son of Sam case isn't what he did. It's a possibility, real or imagined, that he believed the orders weren't his own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a whole satanic cult side of this thing too. You know, he said that there were other people doing this. So
yeah,
I don't know. Kind of crazy. Cleaning up some photos here. Yeah.
I'm just looking to see what others have come up on the bits that I've got open, because a lot of them are just repeating the same couple.
Yeah, there's I've got one here, a gentleman by the name of, well, maybe not quite gentleman, but Herbert Mullen was his name. The voice that saved lives. Back in the 70s, 72, something strange was happening in Santa Cruz, California. Let me put a picture or two up here because, well, come on. Oh, there it is. I thought I'd lost you for a second. Image file. Let's find this guy. There he is. 1, 2. But yeah, this is one I had never remembered hearing about this one before.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of interesting because of what he did and what he thought. We put up this other one here, and there he is as an old guy, just before he died. All right. So the voice that saved lives. At 72, something strange was happening in Santa Cruz, California. Beautiful area, by the way. Not just violence, though there was plenty of that. Not just fear, but confusion, because the killer the police were hunting didn't believe he was a monster at all. He believed he was saving the world. Herbert Mullen's victims had nothing obvious in common. A priest hearing a confession, a hitchhiker picked up on the road, a young woman, a family inside their own home, even someone he knew personally. There's no pattern, no consistent method, no clear motive, which led to one terrifying question. If there's no logic, what's driving it?
Yeah.
Mullen had an explanation. He believed California was on the brink of a catastrophic earthquake, one that would kill thousands. And he believed that the only way to stop it was through human sacrifice, not symbolic, literal. Each killing produced or reduced pressure. Each death prevented larger disaster. Kill a few to save many. Mullen said he didn't come up with this idea alone. He claimed he heard voices, people he knew, strangers, figures he interpreted as authoritative or cosmic. But unlike Berkowitz, it wasn't a single entity, no demon, no identifiable source, just a constant stream of instruction. Not one voice controlling him, but many. As the world itself was speaking, as if the world itself was speaking, and he was the only one listening. From a clinical perspective, Mullen was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Auditory hallucinations, delusional beliefs, disrupted sense of cause and effect. His mind created a system where disaster was imminent, action was required, and violence was justified. What if he believed he was receiving message from something beyond normal reality? You know, what all these different voices are talking to him. He says that it wasn't satanic or anything like that, but who knows?
Yeah.
You know, at the time, Santa Cruz had an unusually high number of murders. It was even nicknamed the murder capital of the world. Multiple killers were active in the same period, and the coincidence adds an eerie layer. Was it just chance, or did the atmosphere amplify fear and meaning? Mullen was eventually arrested after a random traffic stop. When confronted, he didn't deny the killings. He explained them calmly, rationally. At least he was rational in his own mind.
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd done anything wrong, or he didn't think he had done anything wrong. Unlike Ramirez, he had no desire to embody evil. Unlike Berkowitz, no single external controller was going on. He represented something entirely different, a person whose reality became so distorted that murder felt like responsibility. What if the voices weren't telling him to destroy the world, but to save it?
Yeah.
You know, kind of like, well, the more people you kill, the more pressure will be off the earthquakes and the more people will be saved.
Oh,
That makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Oh my God.
He didn't believe he was ending lives. He believed he was holding the earth together, one death at a time.
Oh, bless. It really sounds like he should have a nice cuddly room where he can cuddle himself all night long.
Yeah. Kind of crazy. Oh, well, I guess most of them are, aren't they?
Yeah. I got another couple little mini snippets.
Go for it.
These are both from deleted accounts on Reddit. One person has said, I'm agnostic, so I believe possession is possible, or that sensitive people are more vulnerable to spirits and different types of entities. I have had paranormal experiences, but you wouldn't understand or even believe me, but it is real. I know mental illness is an abnormality of the mind/brain, which can cause auditory, visual hallucinations or delusions and paranoid beliefs. And then somebody's replied, again, a deleted account, Sean Sellers claimed he was demonically possessed when he murdered his parents and tried to make it look like an intruder did it. The jury wasn't buying it, though, and they convicted him. He's the only person in the United States to be executed for a crime that was committed under the age of 17. So, just a couple of little snippets that I've put up. I'm liking seeing what other folks have been saying about it, which includes you lot in the Rogues Gallery. Fire us up questions or comments. Just jump in. The whole point is it's a conversation. We don't want it to feel like a lecture.
That's right.
I'm just trying to get the others. One of the bits I had is not acting. I've got a little bit more on Sean Sellers, though.
Sure, go
ahead. Youngest person to be given the death penalty after it was reinstated in the 1970s. His crimes: murdering a shop clerk who refused to sell him beer. Later, his parents. Before the murders, he had immersed himself in Satanism, signaling his devotion by carrying a vial of fresh blood around his neck, which he would drink from, of course.
Yummy.
On the night of his parents' murder, Sellers had been performing his rituals. He later said he fell asleep and woke up to find his stepfather's gun was in his own room. Sellers went into their bedroom and shot his stepfather. Then, when she woke up, he shot his mother in the face. His grandfather directed the police to him. Initially, he claimed to have no memory, but later said he was two people, Sean and his demonic alter ego. Then we've got the Taylor one coming back. Let me just see that if there's any more on this bit. Oh my God. When he slaughtered his wife, he did slaughter her. Apologies, people. This may be trigger. So if you want, just skip a minute or two, because I'm going to tell you what he did to his wife.
Yikes.
He gouged out her eyes, pulled out her tongue, and almost tore her face off completely. He also strangled their dog. Okay, you can listen again now. It's crazy what some of these people have done. We've got another Johnson, a Daniel Johnson, 2013.
That's not too far back.
Yeah. Demonic possession, or rather mental illness, was also behind the murder of Gemma Finnegan by Daniel Johnson in 2013. He has schizophrenia. He met his partner, Finnegan, after he was released on probation from prison, having murdered a man in 1996. She had no idea that this had already happened in this guy's life. Johnson believed that Finnegan was possessed by a demon, and he strangled, beat, and stabbed her to death. He was found wandering around a school in Newcastle, covered in her blood. There's a lot more UK ones in here. Can I just jump on for this last couple of...
Sure, go ahead.
A sex cult that cropped up in Wales in 2011 was also linked to the occult, led by its high priest, Colin Batley, who enrolled his wife and two other adults. The cult operated out of the group's cul-de-sac. It does sound genteel, but the group raped and assaulted children and teenagers, enlisting some into prostitution from that very cul-de-sac. The group practiced occult rituals and writings, but were not technically Satanists. Instead, they were following the teachings of Mr. Crowley. 148 crimes were reported to the Metropolitan Police between 2004 and 2014 that allegedly involved witchcraft or ritualistic killings. And if it continues, earlier this year, I'm presuming this was written in 2015, 2 schoolgirls in America were arrested after they were found carrying weapons. They allegedly confessed to a plan that included drinking other children's blood and possibly eating their flesh. What could make 2 pre-teen girls plan something like that? They said they wanted to be with Satan. Now, to me, that sounds like the Slender Man killing. Because that was 2 girls as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
I can't even say his name without doing the Aussie reference anymore.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Carl, your comments are showing. Your comments are showing, Carl. I'm just trying to get the others to, forgive the phrase, pull the fingers out and type something if you want to tell us something or join
Yeah,
in.
they're probably all busy, like reading and you know, painting the walls or something, just having us as noise in the background.
Yeah.
So
Wallpaper
I've
for
got,
the ears.
got another one that I have never heard of before either. Maybe I did, but the name and everything just doesn't make any recollections in my
Yeah.
one active brain cell. This guy's name is Jack Unterweger, or he was born Johann Unterweger in 1950. He passed in 1994. He's often called a Vienna woods killer or the Austrian Jack the Ripper.
Oh.
So here's what I got on this guy. He was an Austrian serial killer notorious for his murders of prostitutes and young women, his highly publicized rehabilitation through literature, and his ability to fool intellectuals, media, and the justice system. So he was a pretty charismatic man, I guess, if you can fool all sorts of people like that. He was born in Austria, the illegitimate son of an Austrian woman and an American GI. His dad was reportedly stationed in Europe after World War II. He had a troubled childhood marked with instability, neglect, and claims of abuse, and he began his criminal career early with theft, burglary, and pimping. Nice kid. In 74 or late 75, early 76, depending on your sources, he murdered 18-year-old Margaret Schaffer, sometimes spelled Margaret Schaefer. He strangled her with her own bra in the woods, tying it in a distinctive complex knot. He was convicted of this murder in 1976 and sentenced to life in prison. Investigators later suspected him in at least one other similar murder around the time, Marcia Horvath, but he was not charged due to the existing life sentence. So prison rehabilitation for this guy. While serving his sentence, Unterweger can transform his image dramatically. He educated himself, wrote extensively, including poetry, plays, short stories, children's radio pieces, and an autobiographical novel called Purgatory, or The Trip to Prison, Report of a Guilty Man. The book portrayed his criminal past as a result of traumatic childhood and presented him as a reformed, remorseful man seeking redemption. Aren't we all? Australian intellectualists, artists, and some journalists championed him as a successful story of rehabilitation. His work gained popularity. The book was even taught in schools, and it received support from cultural figures and subsidies. The public pressure and his apparent good behavior led to his parole from a lifetime sentence in May of 1990, after serving the minimum 15 years. The prison warden reportedly called him exceptionally well prepared for freedom. So within months of his release, Unterweger resumed killing. Between 1990 and 1991, he murdered at least 9 and possibly more women, mostly prostitutes in Austria, Czechoslovakia, Prague, and the United States and Los Angeles. His signature method, Los Angeles again, signature method remains strangling victims with their own bras or underwear, often tied to the same distinctive knot, and dumping their naked or partially clothed bodies in wooded areas, sometimes posed obscenely. Sounds like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He worked as a journalist and crime reporter, sometimes covering the very murders he was committing or similar prostitute killings in Vienna. This gave him cover and access to information. In 1991, he traveled to LA on assignment for an Austrian magazine to compare red light districts. While there, he killed at least 3 prostitutes, Shannon Exley, Elizabeth Gibson, and another. I guess they didn't release the name, they don't have it. He stayed at the infamous Cecil Hotel. There we go, another connection. In downtown LA, a place with its own dark history of crime, suicides, and later associations with cases like Alyssa Lam and Richard Ramirez, and all sorts of other garbage. He was charismatic, well-dressed, and socially connected, frequenting elite circles in Vienna while committing the crimes. His victims included Brunhilde Masse, Hilde Marie Hammerer, Elfried Schrempf, Sylvia Zagler, and there's 3 or 4 more here in Austria that they listed, Blanka Bokova in Prague, and at least 3 in Los Angeles. The total confirmed victims in the second spree, 9. Overall estimates for his killings, 12 to 15 plus. Investigation and investigation and the trial. Police eventually connected the dots through travel records, a unique ligature knots, the pattern that bodies appeared wherever Unterweger had been. Austrian detective August Schenner had long suspected him. International cooperation through the FBI and LAPD led to his identification. He fled with a young girlfriend when suspicion mounted. He was arrested in Miami, Florida in 1992 when he was extradited to Austria and tried in Graz in 1994 for the 9 additional murders. After a high-profile trial, he was convicted in 1994 by a 6-2 jury vote, sufficient under Austrian law at the time, and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Didn't we just do this with him? Didn't he have life imprisonment beforehand? And because he was such a good boy, they the night of his conviction, or the following day, he was found dead in his cell at the prison. He had hanged himself using shoelaces braided into a noose, echoing his own knot-tying signature in the murders. Some speculated it was suicide to avoid lifelong imprisonment. Conspiracy theories occasionally surfaced, but the official ruling was suicide. Now, as for the paranormal side of all of this, he stayed at the Cecil in LA during his 91 killing spree there. The Cecil is one of America's most notoriously haunted or cursed hotels, associated with a number of deaths, suicide, murders, and residents like Ramirez. It frequently appears in paranormal investigations, ghost tours, and shows during the claims of hauntings, residual energy, and even walking by the place just pours off all sorts of energy coming off of there.
Just seeing photos and videos from like the street outside, it's an extremely busy building paranormal wise. You can feel it coming at you from the photos and the videos.
Yeah, from the photo, definitely. And I was in downtown LA. I went to go see Chip Coffey doing his coffee time speeches.
I love Chip. He's cool.
It was really a cool show. I really enjoyed it. But it was only a few blocks away from the Cecil. So my friend that I went there with, we walked around and went by the Cecil and was checking it out. We tried to get rooms there, but they were remodeling. And every time we tried to do something to get in and not pay a huge exorbitant amount of money for the investigation, go get a hotel room there. But every time I tried, it was either we're remodeling or something coming up. So I never did get a chance.
Yeah.
So walking by was the best we could do. But there's no strong evidence that he was involved in the occult, claiming paranormal stuff, anything that was influencing him. His story sometimes appears in broader dark tourism or haunted crime scenes, things like that, like the Vienna woods where bodies were dumped, and of course the Cecil. The woods and certain Austrian dump sites may feature local ghost lore, etc. But that's really the bit with paranormal with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought it was kind of interesting that another one stayed at the Cecil, so I thought bring him up.
I found some other little short oddities that have wound up with at least one plea of the devil made me do it.
Cool.
We have Peter Churm. According to his grieving family, 65-year-old Peter Churm was a beloved father and grandfather. 17-year-old Tommy Smith did not care about any of this. The only thing he cared about on February 24th, 2015 was getting the keys to Churm's Range Rover. When Churm stepped in to stop the young punk from stealing his vehicle, Smith, who had already been convicted of a staggering 57 offenses at the age of 17, pulled out a knife and stabbed Churm in the head, back, neck, chest, and arms. The stabbing attack was so frenzied that Smith actually snapped the 8-inch knife in two. Smith went on trial for attempted murder in March 2016. He told Wolverhampton Crown Court that he was not responsible for his actions, as he'd been possessed by a demon on that terrible day. The court more than likely did not buy this possession story, but they did take into account the fact that he had previously been diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. As such, he was cleared of the charge of attempted murder. He was, however, convicted of grievous bodily harm and burglary. Churm, the victim, was in the courtroom for Smith's sentencing, despite now being blind in one eye and having survived a serious stroke as a result of Smith's onslaught. Rather than a jail cell, Smith was sent to a secure mental hospital for an indefinite period of time. So he's gone to Happy Valley, or whatever one they decide to send him to. And then we have another The Devil Made Me Do It. On September the 10th, 2015, a body was discovered inside of an abandoned car in the Whitestone section of Queens, New York. The body belonged to 28-year-old Angie Escobar, who had died after being stabbed 80 times. The medical examiner in the case found that Angie had been killed 4 days before her body was discovered. Before long, the New York Police Department zeroed in on a suspect, 31-year-old Luis Zambrano of Flushing, Queens. Zambrano was arrested on the 18th of September after fleeing to Virginia. Zambrano ultimately confessed to police he had stabbed her with a pair of scissors after the single mother admitted to him that she wanted to break up their relationship. In pleading guilty, Zambrano claimed that he had been possessed by a demon at the time of the murder, and he also had trust issues. She's dumping you. You don't need to have trust issues. Just walk away. Zambrano was convicted of manslaughter in April 2016 and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Queens District Attorney Richard A. Brown also helped to convict Zambrano of an unrelated burglary charge, which added an extra 3 years to his sentence. I'm just skimming this one to see if it's... Oh, right, okay. Elizabeta Plakowska of Naperville, Illinois.
That
Began
sounds like a
hearing...
Naperville name.
Yeah, definitely Eastern Bloc name, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially with the Elizabeta. She began hearing voices sometime before the 30th of October 2012. These voices told her that her child and one of his friends were possessed and needed to die in order to find salvation. Excuse me. Elizabeta gave in to these voices, and on October 30th, she killed 7-year-old Justin, her son, and 5-year-old Olivia. Justin was Elizabeta's son. Olivia was a friend of his, spending the night at their home. The case involved multiple possessions. First of all, she believed that her son was possessed, and Olivia was also possessed by demons. At the same time, she says she was possessed by an entity that she called the Black Shadow. Of course, once she went to trial, her defense team turned her possession story into a plea of insanity. Dr. Philip Resnick took the stand and testified that the 45-year-old accused murderer had suffered a psychotic episode prior to carrying out the gruesome crime. As the trial continued, jurors learned the horrific truth. Oh my God. Sorry, trigger warning again. Elizabeta had stabbed her 7-year-old son 100 times, and his 5-year-old friend was stabbed 50 times.
I wonder if those numbers were given by the voice that was talking to her.
That's it. Because by the time you get to like by the time you got to like 30, your arms are going to be aching.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you're sitting here still counting.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness.
The jury also learned that Elizabeta had originally told the police
Agreed.
that an unknown stalker had carried out the murders after breaking into their house. Over 5 years after the murders, Elizabeta was sentenced to life in prison after being convicted of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of animal cruelty. She killed the family dog of one of the neighbors on the same night. She is not eligible for parole. No shit, Sherlock. Right. Your turn.
Yeah.
While I look for more.
So we had 2 of these serial killers staying at, Elizabeth Bathory. Yeah. She wanted to stay pretty, didn't she? Young and pretty. So let's see what, I just put a window in front of Carl, so you couldn't see what he was saying there.
Yeah. I've investigated somewhere that was a jail in the 1600s, and what is now the customer toilets used to be a prison cell. And several ladies have reported that while they've been sat on the toilet, there's a hand come up from underneath. Not visual, grabby.
You can feel it though.
So it's one of those where the ladies don't use the bathroom after dark. They go to the pub across the road.
No kidding. Okay, so we've had a couple of these serial killer types who stayed at the Cecil. So let's go ahead and talk about the Cecil because it's got an interesting history all its own.
Yeah.
Cecil Hotel, also known as the Hotel Cecil, and briefly rebranded as Stay on Main around 2011. The 14-story, 700-room building located at 640 South Main Street in downtown Los Angeles, right on the edge of Skid Row. It was built in 1924 by hotelier William Banks Hanner for about $1 million. That's a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money now, for me anyway. It originally opened as a luxury destination with a grand marble lobby, stained glass windows, and alabaster statues aimed at business travelers and tourists. The Great Depression changed its fortunes. The surrounding neighborhood declined into one of the city's most notorious areas for poverty, crime, drugs, and homelessness. Over the decades, the Cecil transformed into a cheap, transient hotel, rooms sometimes as low as $14 a night in the 80s. That became infamous for tragedy. The hotel has a staggering record of deaths, with reports of over 80 incidents, including suicides, murders, overdoses, accidents, unexplained deaths, spanning from the 20s and 30s into the 2010s. Many sources cite at least 16 documented murders or highly suspicious deaths within or directly associated with the property. Multiple suicides in the 30s during the Depression, poisonings, shootings, throat slashing. In 1944, a 19-year-old woman gave birth in a room and threw her newborn out the window. That's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Jumpers from upper floors, with at least one case where a falling body killed a pedestrian below. Unsolved murders such as the 1964 rape and strangling of a telephone operator. Lots of creepy stuff happened in this place. One disputed but persistent story links the hotel to the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short. Some claim she was seen drinking at the Cecil's bar shortly before her infamous 1947 murder, although it's not been definitively proven. In 1947, it would be starting to become a real dive. Of course, we know Ramirez stayed there. We know Jack Unterweger stayed there. Lots of stuff going on with those guys. So these connections have earned the Cecil nicknames like Serial Killer Central and Hotel Death. Remember a few years back in 2013, the lady was seen in the elevator looking out.
Yes.
And something going on. Well, her name was Elisa Lam.
Yeah.
And the incident that brought the hotel back into global spotlight, this 21-year-old Canadian student disappeared while staying at the Cecil, which had a budget hostel section called Stay on Main. Her naked body was found floating in one of the rooftop water tanks nearly 3 weeks later, after guests complained about foul-tasting, odd-smelling tap water.
It's a wonder none of them got a really bad infection from drinking that.
Understood.
That's always been something that I've thought about with that case. It's like, surely some of them have come down with cholera, typhoid, or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Lennon wasn't far away, was he?
No.
When he got, yeah.
No. But surveillance footage show her acting erratically in an elevator, pressing buttons repeatedly, gesturing strangely, and appearing to hide from or interact with someone or something unseen.
Yeah.
The coroner ruled her death an accidental drowning. I don't think I'm going to buy that.
I've seen the lid of the tank that she was found in. She was about 4.5 stone wet through. Looking at that lid, I'm about, 4 times the size of her. I would struggle to lift that lid. There's no way on earth she lifted that lid and climbed in there herself.
Agreed.
No way. Someone, or yes, potentially, I do have to say, potentially something, but I think it's more likely a someone took advantage of her deranged, terrified state, which may well have been because of the ghosties or some kind of hallucination.
Right.
And somebody took advantage of the situation, did what they wanted with her, and then threw her in that tank, is what I think.
Yes, I agree with that. That's more plausible than her opening up herself, stripping herself down and throwing herself in to drown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The
Because
coroner ruled that
some of them are giving it, but she could have been stoned, she could have been on some substance and wanted to go for a swim. With where it is, there's plenty of folk around you that have got pools. It's easy enough to jump a fence rather than run up how many floors?
Yeah, 14. Well, she was on the elevator and they had to walk up the other. Probably locked doors and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, because from the highest point of the lift, there are 2 floors between that and the roof. Then when you get on the roof, you have to go up another ladder to get to the higher section. And on top of that is the 2 big tanks that used to have another ladder there. And they 2 big tanks are at least 30, 40 foot high.
Yep. Exactly. They say it was accidental drowning, citing bipolar disorder and possible drug effects with no trauma found.
Yeah. I mean, the bipolar might have given her some hallucinations, but I really, really do think, especially having seen stuff from other people who lived near it and what they've witnessed from their own windows, somebody took advantage of the state that she was in. I don't care what the police say. Somebody took advantage. That's a person took advantage of her.
Exactly. Now, along the same lines with our question, with our talk here, it's like, how did she access the locked roof? How did she climb into and close the heavy tank lid alone?
Yeah.
The bizarre video and circumstances have fueled endless speculation, including paranormal theories, of course.
Yeah.
So the Cecil is widely regarded as one of America's most haunted hotels. Carl's buddies, Ghost Adventures, had visited there. They did a show there. Other paranormal investigators have been there. We tried, but I think at the time they wanted $1,500.
Yep.
From 7 p.m. until, I want to say, midnight, including set up and tear down.
One of the lads I follow on YouTube has a flat across the road from it. Now, his stuff is comedy and life commentary. He's 6 foot plus, but he was born to small people parents. He's the only one in the family that's not a small person. So it's basically life observations and stuff. And he got to the point with the stuff he was seeing. That's her. He got to the point where the stuff he was seeing from his apartment window going on in that hotel. And when you go over and say, I think you need to go and check on this room on this floor, they tell them that the room's completely empty. He's actually been and bought a house elsewhere in the city. So he only has to be in that apartment when he's working. He's turned that apartment into his office.
Yeah.
So that he's not there looking at it all night, because he was starting to get stuff. He said he didn't know if it was because he was seeing so much happening, he was starting to imagine stuff happening in his own apartment, or if something over there had seen him watching and had come over to his apartment.
Awesome.
And like I say, he doesn't really do, I mean, he's got millions of followers and umpteen thousand videos, and I think there's about 15 paranormal ones. So he's not even a paranormalist, really. There's the tanks.
Is he that? Yeah. Is he that ginger guy?
Pete.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I follow him too.
Yeah,
I remember hearing something about him being right across from the Cecil at one point.
Yeah.
No, Carl, that was the Dakota in New York. You were asking, wasn't that where Lennon got killed? You know, that was the Dakota in New York.
The Lennon one was connected with some other stuff like this. I can't for the life of me remember what it was. It's only because it was mentioned in a video I watched the other day. But it was it just different hauntings at the Dakota then?
Oh, there's supposed to be a lot of hauntings in the Dakota, quite a few.
Yeah. Right, I found some more, and yes, there's going to be trigger stuff. But you know me, I like a gory story. So apologies to listeners and viewers. In February 2019, police in Kalamazoo, Michigan, released the 2016 interrogation tapes of spree killer Jason Dalton. Dalton, 48, carried out one of the most inexplicable mass shootings in recent memory. On February 20th, 2016, Dalton, an Uber driver, shot and killed 62-year-old Mary Lou Nye and her sister-in-law, 60-year-old Joe Nye, 74-year-old Dorothy Judy Brown, 68-year-old Barbara Hawthorne, and 53-year-old Richard Smith and his 17-year-old son Tyler. In between some of these drive-by shootings, he continued to pick up passengers and drop them off at their destinations. 14-year-old Abigail Kopf and her 28-year-old Tina Carruthers were also shot during Dalton's rampage, but managed to survive. During his interrogation, Dalton told detectives that the Uber mobile app had begun changing his personality. He said, and I quote, "I know you guys are going to have a hard time believing this, but it literally took over my mind and body," Dalton told investigators. He further elaborated that he saw the symbol of the Eastern Star inside the Uber app, and the horned devil head regularly appeared on his phone screen whenever he logged into work on Uber. In short, he blamed his killing spree on the fact that he had been possessed by a demon that was hiding in the Uber app. On Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison by Kalamazoo County Circuit Court Jude Alexander C. Lipsey. The sentence did not come as a surprise, as Dalton had already pled guilty a month before. There was one surprise, however, as Dalton remained silent and remorseless throughout proceedings. Besides the devil app justification, nobody's come up with a theory as to why he did what he did. Yeah, the Uber app possessed me.
It's a possessed Uber app.
Yeah.
The rest of the phone is fine, just the Uber app.
Yep. Now we got a Russian one. Not so much paranormal. I don't think either of these are actually paranormal, but they're weird and interesting. It's not easy to horrify the Russian public, but that is what happened on August 2008. In a forest outside the city of, I'm going to murder it, Yaroslavl, 4 mutilated corpses were found. The bodies had been desecrated beyond belief. Homicide investigators also learned that the victims, all of whom were teenage boys, had been robbed either before or after death. I don't think that's quite so important as the actual death. Still, despite this fact, the sheer brutality of the crime led... I've lost it. The sheer brutality of the crime led investigators to believe that robbery was not the motive. Well, duh. The investigators were right. The crime had been carried out by 6 self-proclaimed Satanists, led by a young man named Nikolai Ogolobiak. Prior to the murders, the gang of Satanists had carried out several animal sacrifices, but felt that humans had to be killed in order to please Lucifer. Therefore, Nikolai and his brood killed and dismembered the 4 teenagers as part of an initiation ritual, and according to some reports, also ate parts of their victims' bodies. In June 2010, following a trial which was closed to the public due to the gruesome nature of the crime, 21-year-old Nikolai was sentenced to 20 years in prison on charges of robbery, murder, and corpse desecration. The other 5 members of his group, 4 boys and 1 girl, were given sentences that range from 8 to 10 years. The case of the Yaroslavl Satanists caused a stir in Russia, especially since all members of the gang belonged to the county's much maligned goth subculture. Yeah, same old,
What's that,
same old.
Carl?
The Yaroslavl crime also occurred not long before the January 2009 drowning murder of 16-year-old St. Petersburg girl, which was likewise the work of self-proclaimed goths. One of the Yaroslavl killers also claimed that he had carried out the crimes in order to provide Satan with victims. All told, the Yaroslavl and St. Petersburg's cases led the Russian State Duma to propose several legal amendments that would regulate emo websites and ban any goth-affiliated teenagers from entering government buildings or schools.
Okay.
And that's the end of that one. The one I was trying to load ages ago still hasn't loaded. I've hit the refresh button umpteen times. More little snippets off of Reddit. Israel Keys was into the occult, but once again, he didn't actually believe in it. He stopped caring about it when he reached adulthood. David Berkowitz's entire premeditated defense was using the occult as a scapegoat, but it was absolute bull. Charles Manson and his family's crimes were wrongfully attributed to occult behavior. I don't know if I would say wrongfully. They were definitely brainwashed by him, but, you know. Richard Ramirez, his crimes can't be attributed to the occult. It was fake occult behavior because he wanted the shock value. He stopped caring about the satanic stuff once the public stopped giving a monkeys about him. Not sure what crimes did have legitimate occult ties. There was another one. I've lost it. That must be on the page that won't load. It was another one where it was somebody who'd absolutely made stuff up, and within 3 months of going to prison, they became a born-again Christian. It's like, yeah, hail Satan and all this stuff, and 3 months into jail, it's like, yeah, I'm going to be a Christian.
Interesting how people change like that, isn't it?
Oh, that was what it was. Dahmer didn't care about the satanic stuff once he was in jail, and neither did the fellow inmate that killed him.
Yeah.
Sorry. I shouldn't laugh, but you kind of have to sometimes. Like we say up here, if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Exactly. You know, it's really funny, but I had a dream the other night, and I was in Elgin. And I was there for the battle with the Kings, you know, that happened right outside.
Yeah.
But I was there for that, and I witnessed the whole thing, and then I woke up and went, wow, that was cool.
Yeah, Macbeth and Duncan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. It's
But
funny.
just
I was telling someone about that today.
Yeah. But it was just strange. I was right there on the battlefield, and I walked into the town, and I saw the cathedral there, and then woke up. That was it.
Wow. Well, see the building that I've showed you before that I work at that's in the middle of the woods?
Yeah.
That's where it was. When that used to be on the shore before the water moved, that's the shoreline that battle took place. And the king, Duncan, had arrived in a flotilla of ships with lots of men, and Macbeth had basically walked up from the town with about 50, 60 people, and nobody got off the ships to survive because they were all just lined up at the beach going, come on, get off your boat.
Yeah. I know Malcolm III is in my family tree.
Yeah.
And so is Duncan. And Macbeth has a cousin.
Well, if you ever make it back up here, I can take you to where Duncan died. I can take you to where the battle was and where Duncan died, because the hill that overlooks the town that tells you it's got the remains of the castle on it. It's only got the remains of the 1600s chapel on it.
Right.
But that is where the castle was, where Duncan was allowed to stay to recover from his wounds, but he died 3 days after the battle. So, and actually the church that the story goes that Duncan's remains were put into one of our local churches before being moved to Iona.
Yeah.
One myth says it was the cathedral. Well, I have an issue with that because the battle was 1040 and the cathedral wasn't the cathedral until 1224. But the church in the middle of the high street would have been there in 1040. So if he was laid to rest anywhere in the church and before being moved, it would have been the church in the middle of the high street. But then again, when you ask at Iona, they tell you he's not buried there. So where did he go?
Good question.
Sorry, you know us. Sorry, folks, you know us. Look, we always head off on a tangent somewhere or other.
That's our job. That's our job. So I've got one that's kind of off the beaten path, but it is serial killers. And very controversial. I can hear Carl groaning right now when he sees the photo. Because, you know, that's just how Carl is. When he sees photos of things, he's going to go, oh, God. Look at that.
Oh,
can you hear it?
We know it well. Yeah, I
this
can
is another haunted
almost
location. It's got a huge reputation for being very haunted, and that we've got all the stuff going on. DeFeo killed his family there. There were, where in the world did I put it? Oh, here it is. My goods information here. It used to be at 112 Ocean Avenue, and now it's 108 Ocean Avenue. Apparently, that's to deter tourists. But if you're standing at 112 and you look down the street and you see this same looking house, you know that it's got a different number now.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a famous haunted location here in America, or there in America, because I'm in France now. But Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his father, his mother, his sisters, Dawn and Allison, his brothers, Mark and John Matthew, were all killed in 1974 at the house. I like this photo that's up there right now. I mean,
yeah,
it's one of those controversial ones. Is it doctored? Is it, who knows? But I still like it. It's what a little boy ghost would do if he were standing in the hallway taking a picture.
Yeah. I also like the one where they interviewed the researcher that was on that floor when that photo was taken, and he said he was on his knees trying to duck out of the photo, and he is similar to the little boy in the photo, but for me it's a 6 1/2 thing.
Yeah.
Oh, he looks scary.
But it talked about the murders and all the stuff that went on, and the house is supposedly haunted because of that. And then, of course, the Lutz family moved in.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big house. And it's got the boathouse out back and access to the water and everything. It's really cool. But, and they wrote the book and they did all the stuff in the movies out of it. I think a lot of it's created hype.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that the place is haunted. I mean, you go and you kill that many people and it's a crime of passion like that.
Yeah.
There's going to be something in the walls. But a lot of the hype and the stuff going on, as you said, Ed is the master showman. Get Ed and Lorraine in there. I like Lorraine, always have. I think she's got a lot of good stuff going on with her. But Ed is a showman, and I think that's what caused a lot of the.
That's one of the allegations, Carl. It's one of the allegations, but there's never been any yes or no on it.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here with the paranormal stuff, or how much of it is a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a whole bunch of stuff. That ghost boy photo that we showed. It's just a lot of stuff about it. With the lots
Yeah.
of getting involved, they're facing financial problems. They've got all sorts of stuff going on. Let's write a book. Let's make a movie. Let's make some money.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really a
I can't
huge
remember.
fan.
Was it them or the Lutz that ended up getting done for fraud? I think it was the Lutzes, wasn't it?
I think it was the Lutzes. I don't think it was,
Yeah.
not many of the DeFeos are still around to do
Well,
anything.
yeah, but yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, the mass murder that went on in the house, crime of passion, family's gone. I just don't understand how anybody could do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. But I thought I would throw this in because there was a mass murder in the house,
Yeah.
and it's supposedly haunted.
I don't know about mafia, but there were certainly statements later that there was a lot of drug use involved with George. But again, how much is true? How much is just, oh, the media are going to pay me for this story? So,
Yep.
but yeah, I've got some bits out of the Psychology Today one.
Interesting. I've run out of stuff now. Once I did all this, I've got
Yeah.
two. Well, I've got one more haunted location and two people, but very little information on them. So, but go ahead.
One of them from Psychology Today is going back to Berkowitz.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go with the Dahmer one, or the short list that includes Dahmer.
That's pretty tasty.
So, a palm reader told Leonarda, I'm going to try, it's an Italian name, Chianquili, that her children would all precede her in death, and most of them did. When her eldest son enlisted in Mussolini's army, Chianquili panicked. I nearly said pancake then. Sorry, I've been at work since 8 o'clock this morning, and this is the longest I've sat down the whole day. She decided that the only way to protect him after him joining Mussolini's army was to give the dark gods another person's life. She picked a friend to kill, dismember, and boil into a soap. She baked the blood into tea cakes. When this seemed to work, she picked another, and then another, and then another, until she was caught. Now, the person who's written this article has then gone, I was amazed when I saw the murder implements she had used, arranged on exhibit in a crime museum in Rome. But she's just one of many serial killers who believed that murder would grant them special powers. The short list is: Jeffrey Dahmer thought that building an altar from his victims' preserved skulls and bones would give him a supernatural edge, socially and financially. He killed 17, but this provided no immunity from conviction or from the fellow inmate who killed him. According to accomplice confessions, Robin Gecht inspired a group of young men in Chicago to murder women, remove their breasts, and use the flesh in an occult ritual. In Singapore, self-styled medium Adrian Lim, trigger warning, sacrificed the children he had raped to the goddess Kali. And then we get the Night Stalker again, Richard Ramirez, leaving satanic pentagrams on some victims and forced others to swear allegiance to Satan. When arrested, he claimed to be a minion of the Dark One. Then we have Oklahoma City, Sean Sellers again, murdered a convenience store clerk as practice before killing his mom and stepdad. His schoolmates had voted him as the person most likely to become a vampire because he carried the Satanic Bible on a daily basis at school. Demons were the beings that would do things I wanted done, he wrote in his confession. They were the keys to the power Satanism promised. Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo and Sara Maria Aldrete sacrificed an unknown number of people in Matamoros, Mexico, to magically thwart police investigations during their drug deals. The decapitated and mutilated bodies of 15 men and boys turned up in a mass grave. And then, of course, there are some accounts that identify Jack the Ripper as a man with supernatural connections, especially since he was never caught. During an era of flourishing secret societies, this is not a surprise. For example, the author mentioned in an earlier blog that Ivor Edwards' book, Jack the Ripper's Black Magic Rituals, claims that Jack was Robert Donston C. Stevenson, a magician/surgeon, all puns intended, and possible wife killer with a clear sense of purpose, an understanding of geographical geometry, and the ability to move silently. Edwards claimed that drawing lines from one murder site to the next formed an occult pattern. I've seen people do that on the Jack the Ripper cases, and it's not a symbol I recognise, and I've been looking at this stuff since I was about 15, and I'm 53 now. Australian Spiro Demolianis offers a more objective study of his suspect and of supernatural connections in general in his Jack the Ripper and Black Magic, Victorian conspiracy theories, secret societies, and the supernatural mystique of the Whitechapel murders. Aside from being an excellent overview of the work of the earliest Ripperologists, this book goes over many aspects of spiritualism and the occult during the Ripper era. As Demolianis lays out the general zeitgeist with plenty of reliance on psychics, mediums, and their ilk, he demonstrates how the Ripper spree easily gained the aura of the devil himself walking among them. With this sense of setting comes details about the various people who suspected Stevenson of the crimes, as well as serious questions about their credibility. Demolianis combs through infamous occultist Mr. Crowley's autobiography, which shows a dramatic rendering of Stevenson, the magician/Ripper. Supposedly, Stevenson believed he could acquire the power of invisibility by sacrificing 7 women in a star pattern. However, some of the facts of his life have been, well, let's just say, created for narrative effect. Nevertheless, the idea of the Ripper's occult connections fits well with killers today who believe that their crimes deserve a sacred status. None suffered from an overt delusional disorder, but each had developed a sense of exercising the ultimate power, yielded secret knowledge, and made them special. Ted Bundy called his dumping grounds his church. Throw malignant narcissism into this mix, and they become high priests, in their own minds at least, of a ritual that taps the raw energy available along the boundary between life and death. Some believe that no one stands closer, except the victims, to this liminal experience. Therefore, murder gives them privileged access to a rich quantum field, which bestows on them the aura of dark magic. Within this highly motivated frame of faith, such killers think that those who were caught just weren't as skilled as those of them that got away. And that's from the Psychology magazine, and I really like how they've put that.
Yeah.
Yes, there is the Red Barn murder. Yes, there is also the theory that her mother was also bumping uglies with the boyfriend and was involved in the plot. It's one of the theories I came across this evening.
Yeah.
Yes, folks, I literally did my research 20 minutes before we started the show because I was at work. I've spent most this morning. I was speaking Spanish until 12:30. Then I had to go to a funeral. Coming back from the funeral, bus after bus after bus at work. Get home, have to go and do some of my family carer duties. And in the last half hour before the show started, I was making and scoffing my supper while doing research. But that's a normal Wednesday night for me.
I was up
He
a
knows I
lot
can't
earlier than I
have that.
normally am this morning, so.
Yeah.
And I didn't take my insulin before dinner, so I'm
Oh.
sitting here going,
Oh.
So I've got the Villisca Axe Murder House,
Mm-hmm.
which it's 508 East 2nd Street in Villisca, Iowa. It's an unsolved mass murder site. Not really a serial killer, but a mass murder. Kind of like the Amityville house. And I don't know. I really don't know about this other than it's really sad. So basically, June 9th into the 10th of 1912, some unknown assailant brutally killed 8 people inside the 2-story home using an axe belonging to the family. The victims were Josiah Moore, 43, and his wife Sarah Moore, 39. Their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, ages 11, 10, 7, and 5, and 2 overnight guests, Lena Stallinger and Ina Stallinger, 12 and 8, friends of the Moore family children who attended Children's Day program at the local Presbyterian church that evening, so they just stayed over, as kids are wont to do. So the killer is believed to have entered the house sometime after the family went to bed, or was there while they were at their church thing, broke into the house, went up into the attic, stayed there until the house was quiet. So I believe that one more than I believe broke in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because you would normally hear somebody breaking in. I mean, there's no air conditioning running in that at that time. There's no excess noises going on. It's quiet. You got the crickets and whatever going on, but you'd be able to hear somebody forcing a door open or forcing a window open or breaking glass or something.
On just a quick one on the comment that Carl's put up at the Red Barn with the book. Brings to mind Burke and Hare, the ones that people know as the resurrectionists, but when they found out it was so easy, they stopped digging up dead bodies and they would just follow you down an alleyway and bang you over the head. One of them turned king's evidence and the other one was convicted. His sentence, I particularly like, considering they had started by digging up dead bodies and selling them to the medical profession. His sentence was to be publicly dissected alive.
Nice.
After they had finished that and he had actually passed, well, he was going to pass anyway because they were fragmenting the body. They boiled the bones so they are clean, and he is still on display in the Surgeons' Hall in Edinburgh at the medical college. So it's nice when they do things like that. I can't remember if it's Burke or Hare, but it's whichever one got executed. His skeletal form is still on display in the Surgeons' College at Edinburgh.
As well it should be.
Mm-hmm.
As well as this skinny book. Skinny book.
Yeah. There's a lot of it. I found some oddities on serial killer ghosts.
Really?
Yeah. This is just some of them. The person's actually wrote a book, but since their book was published, these are others that they have found since. It makes sense that a property such as the old farm in LaPorte, Indiana, where Belle Gunness, I want to call her Guinness, but there's no I, but Belle Gunness buried over a dozen victims, would gain the reputation of being haunted. However, since her actual fate is unknown and she might have died elsewhere, the fact that her ghost supposedly shows up there and in local stores nearby seems more like tales that kids tell to scare other kids. The same with Fox Hollow Farm, also in Indiana, where Herb Bowmaster burned and buried the remains of 11 men. His wife let the police investigate in June 1996 as Baumeister fled to Canada to kill himself. Their son had found a skull on the property, and Herb dismissed it as part of a medical model from his dad's collection. When detectives went to where the skull had been, they found a scorched area. On digging up the scorched area, they dug up human remains and a rusty pair of handcuffs. And when I say human remains, I mean over 5,500 bones and bone fragments were collected from the burn spot, and there were more in a distant compost area. It's like a bomb went off in a people factory, one researcher remarked. Some people claim to have seen Bowmaster's spirit wandering the Tudor mansion. I'm sorry, I doubt the fact that it's a Tudor mansion. I've seen images and videos of the house, and if that's Tudor, so am I. Sorry. As a historian, I can say that with conviction.
I just put up a picture of the red barn there, Carl, if you want to grab that.
Some people claim to have seen Bowmaster's spirit wandering the grounds. Others have seen running figures and heard cries for help. A ghost hunting team got eerie voices on tape. Another serial killer, while we're on Herb Bowmaster, I've just got to drop in this little story that I know from watching a program years ago. One of the people who's owned the house since was in the pool with his friends. They were playing water polo, as you do. And he was at the deep end, and someone put their hands on his shoulder and pushed him under the water and held him there for 3 seconds till his pal came and pulled him up. None of the others saw the person that had put their hands on his shoulders and pushed him under the water. And we all know one of Herb's things was, I've got an indoor pool. Do you want to come and see it? So
it couldn't have been this guy. He's got no shoulders.
Another serial killer shows up in a cemetery. As the year 1950 drew to a close, ex-convict William Cockeyed Cook went on a murder spree in Missouri. He carjacked a family, made them drive from one state to the next. Then he shot the 3 children and their parents. He then forced a salesman to drive him to California. When they arrived, he killed him too. He then took 2 men hostage in Mexico, but the authorities grabbed him before he could kill anybody else. Cook was convicted in Missouri of the murders of the family, but California got him for the salesman, and he was executed in the gas chamber in 1952. He was buried in an unmarked grave in Peace Church Cemetery in Jasper County, Missouri. One story holds that Cook was buried beyond the boundaries of sacred ground, and rumors grew up that a ghostly figure stands on Cook's grave. On January 15th, 2007, news sources featured the story that the prison cell once occupied by Harold Shipman, the healthcare serial killer, is haunted. Roy Whiting, the killer who now occupies the cell, claimed he couldn't sleep due to strange noises. He was certain it was the spirit of Harold Shipman. one of the world's deadliest serial killers. He was a GP who euthanized people who didn't need to be euthanized, apart from the fact it's entirely illegal to euthanize a person. And yeah,
Shipman here as soon as I find it.
He hanged himself in the cell, did Shipman. And a previous inmate years earlier also hung themselves in that cell. So Mr. Whiting, who now occupies the cell, potentially has 2 bunkmates. In another prison.
Shipman there.
Yeah, that's him. In another prison, we also have allegedly Ted Bundy's ghost. Before his execution in 1989, Bundy confessed to killing at least 30 young women in 6 states and hinted at even more. A decade after he was executed, a guard at the prison told the reporter that several guards claimed to have seen his ghost sitting casually on the electric chair. He smiled knowingly, and if anyone tried to approach him, he would disappear. The guard said there were so many sightings at one point that the warden couldn't find anyone willing to enter the execution chamber on their own. Bundy also showed up around his holding cell on death row. To some guards, he'd reportedly said, "Well, I beat all of you, didn't I? I'm still here." In May 2013, the author saw a report published about Bundy's ghost showing up again. This time, the report came from an inmate. For many years, he stated, "I heard the rumors of Ted Bundy's ghost appearing and didn't believe it. Now my mind has changed. I and other residents, including staff, have witnessed this ghost on many occasions. It is definitely Bundy. It comes in the early morning before dawn in our housing unit and in different cells. He is always smiling. It's a white-blue mist, but very detailed. Some of the other residents claim to hear him talking." And one more. This week, the author was working on a tale of Jack Unterweger, journalist who covered his own murders in Austria and California during the early 90s. Although he had a life sentence for one murder, he became a writer of some distinction. So influential people petitioned for his parole. Once out, women began to die. It seemed like a good idea to some editors to hire the paroled killer to cover these news items. Thus, Unterweger wrote about 7 of his own murders in several Austrian cities. On assignment to write about prostitution in California, he killed 3 prostitutes there. Finally, an Austrian investigative team put the pieces together and arrested him. Adamant that he would spend no more time in prison, when he was convicted, he killed himself. During the night following his suicide, his fiancée said she woke up and saw him standing at the foot of her bed. And I'm going to leave it at that because that's a nice, suitable, creepy one to send you all to bed with.
So they say that John Wayne Gacy's ghost hangs out on his property.
Cool.
8213 West Somerdale Avenue in Chicago, where a lot of the victims were buried in crawl space and things like that. The house was demolished, but the lot and related sites carry a heavy reputation. Reports of poltergeist activity, screams of the boys, phantom footsteps and EVPs are happening there. Some claim to see a man dressed as a clown, Pogo the clown, walking the area. And former owners reportedly experienced violent disturbances that contributed to selling the property. Somebody else bought it.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's almost us, isn't it? Because we're 5 minutes away from the 2-hour mark, so we'll let you all have an early night tonight. And remember, comment, subscribe, like, share it out to your pals if you've got folk who are interested in all this weird stuff. Feel free to send us suggestions and send us your stories.
Certainly do that.
Do you know what? Heidi never sits down and watches anything in full, and she sat down and watched the whole of this. She's been fascinated.
Hi, Heidi. Well
How you doing,
done.
Heidi?
She's putting a kettle on at the moment, so trying to get kind
Two
of to
and
go a bit.
two for me, please.
It's been this one has been absolutely phenomenal. It has been
I
absolutely
even
brilliant.
had an appropriate mug for tonight when I get it.
Ah,
So we have, and then it's actually got chilling
nice.
like a villain.
Nice. This is called drink up. So it's been absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, in fairness, Kynan's been really good now. He's just getting ready to go to bed because
Night, Kynan.
he's starting school properly tomorrow. Finally,
Okay.
he's
Good
been
luck.
very good.
Good luck.
Actually,
Fingers crossed.
yeah.
It'll be a good day for you tomorrow.
Bye.
But no, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. It's a shame Ian couldn't be here, but obviously he's been called away to work, and we've had school meeting after school meeting today, and it's been absolutely manic. That's why I didn't get the chance.
Yeah.
So, and we couldn't not let them have their consoles after how well they've done today. So, but guys, you two have been absolutely brilliant. I think me and Ian can retire and just leave it to you two.
I've just noticed Perry's comment about his textbook. That's kind of cool, but yeah, it's a bit gross too.
I didn't actually. What is it? Let's have a look. That's it. That's one of my textbooks was a dissection of human foot, layer by layer, by a Japanese photographer. Oh, lovely, fascinating, but still. Oh yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. Right, this is obviously gonna go live on YouTube. So we did actually have somebody new pop by. I don't know if they subscribed.
Very good comments too. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I can't see their name, unfortunately.
Miss Penny.
That was it, yeah. Because I didn't bring me glasses. I didn't think of bringing me glasses. But no, you guys have been fantastic. And Linda, you didn't show no nerves at all this time, like you did when me and you done the UFO one.
Yeah.
You done fantastically.
I think because today I've basically been running on adrenaline all day, the body's just gone, whatever, just do it.
Yeah. Right, so guys, we'll be back. We'll talk about it more in chat, but we toyed about going over to fortnightly with the live. Obviously, because you work a lot, Ian works a hell of a lot as well. Poor son's at work more than he's at home, poor fella. But we toyed with that, and it also gives people more chance to watch some of this stuff. But tonight has been absolutely brilliant. Like I said, Heidi actually stayed awake for the whole thing, and she normally don't stay awake for anything. So,
yay!
That's true.
Right, so guys, those that have popped by, like, share, subscribe, do all the things you got to do, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
See ya.
Night all.
Bye.
See you later.